Hi, my name is Ayomide. Welcome to the World Without People podcast, where we journey into some pretty amazing stories of everyday people. I believe strongly in the interconnectedness of our human experience, that we can color and enrich our lives by sharing and learning from our lived experiences. In this concise podcast, I bring to you engaging conversations like a chapter in a vibrant book designed to motivate and encourage and challenge and, of course, brighten your day. My guests also get to ask me one question, and there's no telling what they might come up with. So thank you for tuning in. Grab your coffee or tea, or listen on the go to some amazing stories of real people. After all, what is a world without people? Welcome, everybody, to another episode of The World Without People. My name is Ayomide, and I'm so excited for you guys to be here with me today because I have two of my best friends here. And I might cry during this episode. I promise not to cry. But I have two of my best friends here. And this is about to be fun because we're going to go intimate. And just thank you, Debby and Nnokam, and Funmi Johnson here. Thank you guys both for deciding to join me on today's episode.
Thank you for having me.
All right, cool. All right, let's start. I'm going to start with Debby because I've known Debby longer. So Debby and I met in high school, but we weren't friends in high school. So we have to give you that background. We weren't friends in high school. We barely talked in high school. I don't even remember an actual conversation in high school. But then I moved to the States. No, actually before that, Debby lost her dad, unfortunately. And I think I connected then to just, condolences and stuff like that. And then it's like, oh, I'm coming to the States too. And then somehow, and she's going to talk to you a little bit about that. Because she always says that she chased me for our friendship. That's our thing, right?
But it's true though.
It is. And I want to, just thinking about it, I was like, well, I want to commend the maturity because now we hear a lot of people talk about that. Like, it's friendship, like both of you go in, be intentional. But we were 16, 17, 18? Like, I want to commend the maturity to have known that at that age. But I'm curious what influenced that for you.
Tell you the truth, I really can't think of what exactly influenced it. I left America 2003, January 2003. So I think somewhere in 2002, I came to your house and we just hung out. I don't know. I liked you, I guess, just from hanging out then, even though we weren't friends at that time, but we just hung out, for that time. And so I really don't remember how we reconnected when you came here. And so we reconnected. It just seemed like, genuine friendship to me. And at the time, I didn't have a lot of friends. I still don't because I'm not a very friendly person. And so, but I really don't know what made me feel like it was going to be a good friendship, but I chased it. Just like I said, I don't know if you want me to go into the chasing situation, but yeah, it turned out to be just fine. Well, okay, so I guess anyone that knows you, I don't know if you're still that same person, but who you were back then, you are a friendly recluse. That's the word I'll use for you. So you you make friends very easily, but then at the same time is like you probably keep them at arm's length enough so that they know just enough about you, but like are not in there to break your heart or to know you well enough to cause real damage. You know what I'm saying? And so that's kind of how you were worse than you are now. Now you've changed a little bit because you've calmed down a little bit. But back then, like you just would not let me in, and the kind of person I am, which I still am, when I want to know something or when I want to be around somebody, I want to ask you questions. I want to know what's going on with you when you're sad. I want to see, oh, how are you doing? I want you to talk to me right then. And Bookie's like, I'm not talking. Like, that's just it. There was no explanation. She wasn't going to tell you why. She's just not going to talk to you, and that's it, And it really did frustrate me a lot. But we just kept at it for several years, really. I think until 2006, 2007, she started to open up a little bit more. And then I started to understand why she was a recluse or why she kept certain things away. And so then that allowed me to now also explain to her the way I like friendship, right? And so then we both started understanding each other, and she came to my side sort of, I came to her side sort of. So once we got to understand each other, I would give her her space, and then she would also come later and talk to me when she was ready. So we found that balance. But the chase was 2 3 years, girl. I've never chased anybody else like that. Nor will I chase anybody else again after
Wow.
that. But you have to understand that that's why people don't do it now. It's hard, to have what you feel like is a one-sided friendship. But it worked out for us. I don't think I would do it for anybody else. And truly, nobody else has come through for me like you have. So then, of course, I definitely don't regret doing all that.
Thank you. I don't know. Am I still a recluse? For me, what will you say? Because,
Yeah.
our friendship started from meeting your ex husband first. And I always said that, I used to call her auntie because I'm like, I don't want no problems. Like, I don't know you. I met your husband. So, like, and I didn't even know the age. I didn't know anything. So I was just like, auntie for me and all of that. But obviously, ours also took time. And, looking back, it's like God designed, obviously. But I think I was still a recluse with you.
Yeah, I think that's actually a great description of you because you're friendly, but then I guess you have parts of you that you protect and that you do keep for only really close people, which I guess that's the way that it's supposed to be. Yeah, so I I do agree. Funny enough, I can't remember the details of how we actually came into each other's lives. Like, except that, oh, it was through my ex husband, as you mentioned. But the actual details of like the first conversations or how that happened, I don't really know. I just know, like, I remember you had watched Annabelle, or you had, like, I think he had informed me, like, oh, yeah, you'll be, like, think we were going out for a weekend or something, and then you watch Annabelle. And I'm like, I don't know who this person is. What do you mean? Like, I don't know who this person is. And I think it was after that that we kind of got to know each other. And one thing with me is I'm very careful with meeting new people, especially people who I meet through, like, I don't know, maybe it's that high school pettiness of don't steal my friends. And I have actually been accused, funny enough, of, well, my ex-husband accused me of like poaching his friends, which I'm like, I'm not trying to poach people's friends. Like, is it my fault that we happen to be having a better time together? So I think that there was a little bit of that carefulness in the beginning to make sure that we're not just in each other's lives just because, you know. So I do think that there was a little bit of that intentionality, at least on my part, when we met.
And I'm curious because obviously, like we mentioned, we met through ex husband and we were in a church environment and people were talking and, as people would talk. And so I'm just curious, did jealousy ever come into your mind? Did you ever think, oh, this might be problems? And if not, why not?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. And I think for me, it's two things. One, I grew up with people around me a lot. There were always people, when I say around me, in my house, there were people like those type of thoughts for me were just like, what do you mean? Like, what are you thinking about? And obviously I knew you. And I think that that was, well, not that I knew you, like I got to know you. And so for me, it just wasn't there. Maybe there were other people where I didn't have that type of relationship with, like, and maybe I would have thought something, but I knew you, right? So I think that once we crossed, I think for me that's the thing with me. Once we go over a certain line, it's all in for me. It really is all in, and I think that it has been since that point completely all in. Even when we've had situations of our lives, and I'm sure we'll get into it, even when we had a problem during a season of our life. I still tell you, I'm like, you were there when I gave birth to my son. What else are we holding back at this point? Like, are you kidding me? Not to say that, as individuals, we don't have our flaws, we don't have our issues. But for me, it just, once we cross certain points, I'm just like, are you kidding me?
Yeah. And it's funny because I feel like that's the same thing with Debbie now. Like, I always used to think like we've not had any major issues. Like, we've never had any fights or whatever. But I think to your point, there was that point where we were like, we're all in. And so it was fine. But I guess let me ask it the other way for you, because friendship wise, everybody knows, like, if I talk best friends, you're number one, right? Because you're the first and all of that. But I've since then had other relationships, like, well, BJ is my male best friend who I kind of met after you, of course, and now obviously Funmi. And I think Debbie and I are in some ways the same because we're uber independent, right? Like, we don't feel like we need people, kind of thing. But in other ways, we're, definitely not. And we'll talk about that. But I guess my question to you is, how were you calm? Because it's like everybody else, it looked like they didn't need to chase me as much as you needed to chase me. So how did you deal with that? Okay, like, how come she's changing? How come, it's so easy for her to be friends with other people easily, even become best friends with them? How did you deal with that?
Don't think it was easy for anybody else, to tell you the truth. I actually think maybe except BJ. Because for whatever reason, with your male friendships, they do tend to be a little bit easier. So I never think that your female friendships are easy. But I feel just like you said, there's this secureness I have in our friendship that even if she's talking to this other person every day for like 10 days, at the end of the day, she's still my number one person. You know what I'm saying? Like, I still always have that in my head because we have literally been best friends since we were 18. Like, we're 2 days apart. We're born 2 days apart. So we're the same age, exact same age. We've been best friends since we were 18. And right now, can I say our ages?
Yes, everybody knows my age.
I mean, almost 19 years now, because we're gonna be 37
Yeah.
this year. So we've been best friends for so long. We've really never had like major lows. We've had a few lows here and there, but nothing major that has made me question our friendship, that has made me question, I don't even want to say loyalty, but maybe use that word because I'm kind of, my ideas or my views on loyalty is changing a little bit, but nothing has made me question it enough for me to say, well, how did she become friends easily or easier with somebody else? It's never been that case for me because, yeah, I've just never, I've always seen the progression of your friendships. So it's never been it was easy for somebody else. You understand
Yeah.
what I'm saying? But it wasn't, they didn't chase you like I
Yeah.
chased you, but it wasn't easy. Yeah.
Honestly, and it's funny because I have to think about it and be like, that probably helped me more than I actually realized. Yes, I was always friendly. I was always friendly. My house was always open till today, but I don't know that I would have ever developed friendships like that if not because of that. So honestly, I mean, you already know that. But anyways, like you said, we've not had major lows, but like for me, I'd also mentioned we had like a major fight. Like, we had to call a minister, the whole 9 yards. And it was funny. But I remember then I used to argue with Debbie. I'm like, we don't need fights to be involved in each other's lives. Like, how like relationships, like guy and girl, is like, oh, you need a fight to do that. I'm like, no, I don't think we do. But I guess the question for you, for me, is that do you think that helped strengthen our friendship? Do you think there was anything monumental about that made us become deeper friends? I don't necessarily think so, but I'm curious from your end.
I don't think so. I think that you do learn from everything that happens to you in life. And I think for me, it was a learning experience. Definitely about how to be a better friend and definitely about knowing what's important and knowing kind of how to navigate difficult situations. Because I think for me, coming out of it, I didn't understand the extent of this thing that had happened. And I also was very secure in where we were prior to that happening that I didn't even give it a thought. And so when we fell apart, maybe broke is a strong word to use, but I was really like, could we not overcome this? Like, was this that major? And then I think that, my takeaway from that is just being very, very careful, and just not being so relaxed. It's kind of like, a relationship too, right? Like, in a relationship, there's certain things that you do that you just think just because this person is in your life, you're relaxed, you're comfortable, you can do certain things and just pick up and go and things like that. And you don't realize like you actually have to work. You actually have to be intentional. You actually have to really know the other person and know the things that affect them. So I think that was one of my big learning experience from it. As far as us picking up from it, I never thought that we wouldn't be able to, honestly, even though maybe in the midst of it, I know like when you're going through crazy things, you're kind of like, I'm done, I'm done, I'm done. But I definitely didn't think that we would not be able to get over it. Heck, in relationships, people get over affair and infidelities and stay together or whatever the cause. So, I don't think it was anything to that extent that I wouldn't have been able to move on from.
Yeah, but you know how like sometimes, right, friendship seems like it's a choice, so I can just leave, right? Whereas
Mm-hmm,
like if
mm-hmm,
your husband and wife is like you're married, like really is more than just a choice. But I think for me, one of the things I would say even about both friendships is that is a confirmation bias for me that whatever it is, love, friendship, it's a choice. And
mm-hmm,
both parties have to be intentional about it. So I'm curious in your journeys, like with other friendships, of course, what do you do or how do you draw someone in? Or how do you deal with the fact that sometimes people don't realize that part, like that it's a choice? Like, I have a choice to back out just as much as I have a choice to opt in. And so how do you navigate that? Because Debbie has kind of mentioned something about loyalty, for example,
mm-hmm.
and maybe you have a high stake of loyalty in friendships and the other person doesn't. How do you deal with those kind of things? So I guess I'll ask Debbie first and then for me.
Okay, so when I was younger, my thoughts on friendship were similar to how I would look at a relationship, where I felt like I would want to know the person, I want a person to know me, that our friendship is built on that, just like how me and your relationship is. But as I've gotten older and over the years, as I've lost friends and all of that stuff, I've come to realize that I don't know that I put too much anymore into making it work, or and I mean, it is still a choice. And even till now, if I meet a new friend or whatever, something that they know, like I would talk about, often enough. I let them know, they let me know, hey, if we can meet, we meet. If we can't, we won't, especially since, last year I went through what I felt was major disappointment, friendship disappointment. And so, like, that really completely changed my perspective on friendship. Like, my niece, she's that kind of person that sometimes would just not show up for things because she really just can't. And she just wouldn't. She will go do whatever she wants to do. And then when she's ready, she'll come back. And so, before last year, I would tell her, I'm like, hey, girl, like, no, you always make time for people, like, no matter what, Anyways, that last year, nobody made time for me, but it's okay. It changed my perspective on everything that was going on. And so then now, in the past year, everyone knows from the beginning of me trying to build a friendship, if I'm available for you, I'll be there. If I cannot be there for whatever reason, I'm just not going to do it. It is still a choice, but it's no longer for me something that I would go the extra length for, like how I would a relationship. Only truly because I haven't gotten that in reciprocation. However, I feel like if you do find a friend who, you have that strong connection with, and who truly is a good person, then I would still pursue, the friendship in the same way I would a relationship. It's still a choice. We would still be intentional with each other. I always try my best to be intentional. These days I'd be forgetful sometimes. So like I would literally write stuff in my calendar, to follow up with somebody if something comes up, because I might not remember. So I would write it in my calendar to follow up with them. That's how intentional I am. And so sometimes I'm like, I don't know how intentional other people are about this stuff, because I've noticed that people are not, you know. And so like, oh, like, because for example, over the last 3 months, I've had some difficulties with certain things, and other people too have gone through that same thing during the same period of time. I still end up reaching out to them to ask them how they're doing, but I'm not getting that in reciprocation. So however, I've chosen that I will not go out of my way to do whatever, to make form a relationship, but it will not stop me from still checking up on you. I'll still check up on you, hey, if I can, but if I can't, it ain't gonna kill me either. It's all right.
I love it. And for me,
It's so funny because I remember a season of my life I was dealing with something in my marriage and something had popped up with a friend. And I was talking to a counselor and she had mentioned that it was actually the sort of connected situations. And she's like, but your husband at the time did the pretty much the same thing that your friend did. And I'm like, look, I made a commitment in front of God and family and friends to my husband. The friend, no, I did not. So like, I don't have energy for this right now. So in terms of like that intentionality, I think that maybe for me, because I don't have a lot of friends, and the friends that are close to me, I think we're not even friends at this point. We are sisters. So I do have to work on certain things. And I learned that from you. You remember birthdays, you remember every single thing. I'm at the season of my life where I feel like I'm not as sharp as I should be. You might have like an interview, for example. I'm going to know in my head that you have an interview this week. And I know it's a big thing. And I'm going to know to follow up with it. I might not remember that it's Monday at 10 a.m., right? Enough for me to be able to call you before Monday at 10 a.m. or after to be like, how did it go? How did it go? And it's a struggle for me because I'm just at that season of my life where I'm just like, I need to do better. I need to do better. Why am I so forgetful? So in terms of that intentionality, I have had to work on it more. It's something that I'm constantly working on it more because I know that I tend to be all over the place in my head. But yeah, in terms of reciprocity, I don't have enough people where if they go one way with me, I can be like, I'm going to go the other way if that's how you're coming at me, because you're just generally in my acquaintance or friend pool. Like we might kick it, we might hang out, life situations might bring us together versus friends where I feel like we've become family, right? So if something happens and you are acting a funny way, like you're being quiet, I might give you your space, but ultimately I will come and intrude your space. Like, what is this? What is this happening? What is this going on? Let's bring it to the forefront and deal with it and get over with it. Like, I don't have time for this. So I think for me that's how I deal with being intentional. I had put up a post that I saw on IG last week where someone put, I think it was Sarah Jakes Rob or somebody put up this post about how there's not enough said about how a lot of us are still learning how to be better people. So I do acknowledge that I have my faults. I feel like I'm still working on being a better everything, a better sister, a better friend, a better anything. So I give people grace as well. And I try to give myself grace, if that helps.
Aren't we
Yeah,
all
no,
though?
that makes sense. Exactly. That's exactly what I was going to say, aren't we all? But I think it's so funny because what I can see from all three of us now that I'm listening to all of us at the same time is we really are kind of, in that sense, the same people, in that we're not very good with friendships. Not like we don't have friends, but like we're very obviously selective and stuff. But the one thing about me, I will say, is if you are my friend, you get my whole family and you get my other friends. So Funmi and Debby haven't met, but they already know each other. Like, it's
Mhm.
not even a thing. Like, I feel like if I'm like, I can't do something, Funmi, I need you to do something for Debby or vice versa, it's done. Like, I don't have to think about it because my friends become like family, and my family, and I mean my siblings, my parents, they are all involved in their lives. And so I guess my question for you is, on the one hand, I don't think I do that with your own people. And I don't know if that says a lot about me, or it's just, I don't know. Is it me not asking or being as intentional with your own family and friends? I think I care. I think I show that I care, but I don't know that it's as active as mine is. So how could I be a better friend in that kind of situation? Or how would I better do that? Because I've been thinking about that a lot. Anybody?
Well, for me, you can start.
Honestly, I think it's also a thing of closeness in terms of physical location. Like my family is all over the place. My family versus you, like, your sisters are here, like they're in your house, so they're doing things with you. And so I'm there, like your mom is here. So I think that that's the difference versus me. I'm the youngest, you're the oldest, right? So
Mm.
the only time that you might really interact with my family is at events when I'm doing something at my house and they're there or things like that. But even with that, my family definitely knows you. My family definitely knows enough to be like, if we can't reach Funmi, we know that me, Nife has got Funmi. So she's fine. And I think it also gives them that sense of comfort, especially when I was going through difficult seasons of my life, to know that I wasn't alone. I wasn't alone. Nife was there. So I think that that's the difference. You're the older sibling, I'm the younger sibling. But my family, my family knows you, all my nieces, everybody. But there's not as much opportunities for you to be there for them because they're just older and doing their own things. Not that I necessarily do that much, but I just think that we're just, you're the older sibling. So as you're taking care of your siblings or they're in your home, I'm there. When mommy comes from Nigeria, for example, she's here for a while. So of course I'm going to see her. Of course I'm going to be there. And you also have an amazing family. Like you have a really amazing family that even when you were out of the country, like me and Tolani, we were doing our own thing. And, there was a little bit of me feeling like, oh, Nife's not here. And it's just me and her sister doing all of these things. But we were secure. At least I hope that we're secure. I feel like I connect with your sisters separately and I connect with you as well. So I think
Yeah.
that's the difference, I'd say.
Debby.
Yeah, I actually will agree with that family wise, because like your family, like Fumi said, your siblings are younger, and I've usually been introduced to them through you, and so then, our relationships somehow have built outside of you too, so that I have their numbers, they have my numbers, or my number rather, and we're able to have conversations and such like that. And you have my youngins, my nieces' numbers. And so you are able to reach out to them. I usually tell my older niece to reach out to you whenever she has any kind of questions or whatever. I'm sure she does every once in a while.
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
So I think there is that thing to be said about the younger ones. Because I'm sure, for example, now, like when Fumi's kids are a little bit older, when they have their phone, they'll probably reach out on Tibuki for some things that they can't talk to mommy about because it's just normal life, right? Okay.
Yeah.
And so then same thing. I'm on the younger end of my siblings. And so
Yeah.
there really isn't much for them to have to reach out to you for or anything like that. However, when it comes to friendships, when we talked about this briefly, you are protective of me. 100%, especially since you have seen who I've been for the many years that we've been together, especially since we also haven't had major issues in our friendship. And so when you hear or when I tell you anything about a friend that has possibly done something to me, you take it to heart. I was telling her, I told you, there's nobody else in this world, not my mom, not even my husband, that takes anything to heart that people do to me like you do. So if I just manage to tell you something that someone did to me, that person already cancelled immediately. So there's no real, ability then for you to build a friendship or a relationship with that person. Also, I'm not really one to bring my friends together anyways. So I think there might be parts of that where that might be partly why you haven't met some of my friends. But at this point in my life, really, there's nobody new that you haven't met or that I want you to meet that is significant enough to me to to build a relationship with you. So I think that's kind of what it is. You're protective.
Um, yeah,
I will
I
admit
really,
that you are very, 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 very protective.
I
Like,
really am. I don't like foolishness. I just want you all to know I don't like it. And so it brings up a question for me because as reclusive as I am still a lot more vulnerable or at least a lot more open than either of you. And you're both very private people. Curious. It's true.
Fact,
It's true.
fact,
So I'm
fact.
very curious how you guys are not like this girl's gonna put all my business out on the streets. I mean, and by on the streets, I just mean like blogging or podcasting. Like, how are you guys comfortable? Because I know, like you said, who and all. I know all your secrets. I know where it's buried. So how come you guys are not worried about things like that? Because I mean, I be talking.
I don't know. One, it comes with the friendship. I know you have a lot of people in your life. And I know that there are people that are close to you, right? So, for example, if I share something close with you, I know that Debbie is your best friend. And I know that I'm telling Bookie, of course, it's going to come up in a conversation with Bookie and Debbie. Whether or not it does or does not, for me, it's just that, like, you just got to know. And is that something that I'm going to be worried about? No. Yeah, I don't think it's really an issue for. It's so funny that you said that I'm private. I didn't think I was private like that. I think maybe I'm more private about things that I'm insecure about. Maybe that's what it is. Because I remember like it was financial stuff we spoke about was it last year or this year? And you're like, of course I knew about this. And I'm just like, yeah, maybe because I'm like, it's something that I'm insecure about. Like I wouldn't talk about that. So it's funny that you say I'm private. Definitely when I was married, I was private about a lot of things because I was not ready to confront them. And you can't just have a conversation with Bookie. She's not a good let's just listen and be quiet. It is, okay, what are we going to do? How are we going to? And I don't think that I'm always in that space. So maybe that's the difference. If it's something that I'm not comfortable with in terms of like I'm insecure about or something that I'm not ready to really dive into it, I may be slow in talking about it. But yeah, no, I don't think I'm uncomfortable with the conversation because again, I know who are you having these conversations with? Who are the people? I know who the people are. Yeah, so at least for me, that's how I feel.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would say the same thing too, because I feel like even if you may say certain things to certain people about what me and you talk about, there's usually a limit. There's a place where you will stop. It wouldn't be everything. So, because it's 100% that you don't tell me everything about everybody or what everybody tells you. Our friendship has always been that way, anyways, from beginning. So it was never a thing where, oh, I have a friend. I will not come and tell Buki, come and see what happened with this friend. Nah, girl, we've never done that. It may come up in a kind of situation where, oh yeah, this thing happened to this person, and so you're just kind of telling me about it in a way where you're concerned maybe about the person. But for me, it's not gossip, and it was never a thing of gossip. And so in that aspect, I always then trusted that my information with you was going to be kept as private as possible. And from time, you've never written about, anything about anybody. Because even from the beginning, like whenever you used to blog back in the day, like you would write stuff and you would kind of say a friend. You would never mention the person's name. Anyways, like I said, you never really put anything out there concerning me where I felt that I couldn't then trust you to tell you what was going on with me. Nah, as long as I feel comfortable talking, I talk about it. Just like for me, so like I don't care about the information getting out. If the information gets out about me, it's not for me. So yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so I guess I want to hear from both of you. What does friendship mean to you? And this is now in general. Like when you think about friendship, the most important qualities, the most important value in a friendship, how would you describe it? So for me first.
Oh gosh, you're exposing that I didn't do my homework. Like I've been going through coaching. One of the sessions, the coach asked me to define what friendship means to me. Friendship for me is openness, and not necessarily openness like tell me everything that's going on in your life, but just be who you are. And I need to be comfortable being who I am. Is what friendship is for me. It is, I don't want to say a commitment because it's not. And this is life. If marriages end, if people quote unquote disown their children, then I don't think that friendship is necessarily always forever and ever. But I think that there still needs to be some level of commitment for friendship. Friendship is just knowing where each of you are at different stages of your life, knowing when you can show up, when you can't show up. It's taking turns showing up in each other's lives, I would say. But the biggest part for me is just, again, just being yourself, being who you are. And on my end, let me know who I am and let me be free to who I am. Like, for example, I love to dance. I need to be able to dance freely in your presence without you making fun of me, without you thinking that it's silly or it's ridiculous, whatever it is, because I have awkwardness. I can be very shy. There are things about me that I am, protective of, and I need to be able to be that, be all of that, be silly, be goofy, be whatever it is. Friendship is a lot of work. I know for some people, maybe friendship is easier, but I think that even with my siblings, it's not all roses. We have arguments. My siblings disappoint me at times. I disappoint my siblings at times. So there needs to be room in friendship for that. We don't always have to hold hands and like the same things and be the same people. And friendship needs to make room for that. Yeah, I feel like I said a lot, but the key again for me is openness and for the room for us to be whatever it is that we need to be. Somehow intentionality and all of that, I think will fit in somewhere in all of that.
Yeah, Debbie.
Well, so I'm going through a change of mind or heart about friendship. And so my previous idea of friendship would have definitely been similar to a relationship because I had always been that person that like I felt like I put as much energy into my friendships as I would into like a relationship, an actual relationship. And so since my thoughts or my ideas are kind of changing a little bit about that, I don't necessarily then not, feel like friendship is needed or whatever. But should I choose to develop a friendship now, like I'm still looking for the same things I would look for in the past. I'm looking for commitment. I'm looking for encouraging friends. I mean, it kind of sounds weird that I would say commitment, right? Because you're like, why? It's just friendship. What are you looking for? But no, my friends mean a lot to me. My friends mean a lot to me. So if I'm going to then, take you as a friend, then I need to know that you're committed to the friendship as well. And then I guess it's also like, I guess for me now, defining where I put you as a friend. So depending on the level of friendship that we have, then of course the commitment level is different as well. Giving each other grace, like truly, truly understanding each other, because no two people are the same. No matter how similar me and you are, Bookie, we're still very different. And so then I still need to understand you. I need you to understand me. I need you to know what makes me tick. I want to learn what makes you tick. I like a certain level of openness within my friendships. I'm private to a point. I'm also pretty open, I feel like, especially about my feelings or about my thoughts about a situation. I don't really hide those kinds of things. So no matter the level of friendship, I will always talk about my thoughts and my feelings and those kinds of things. I don't do that jealousy thing. And I've never had that in any of my friendships. If I sense even just a little bit of jealousy, please move to the side. I don't do fights in friendships. I do fights in relationships because I feel like those you actually do need fights in relationships to be able to, understand each other. But in friendships, I don't do fights, not real fights. There's no reason for that. You live over there, I live over here. We're not really trying to be in each other. Like you're not in my pants, I'm not in your pants. Like, why are you fighting with me? You know? So yeah, no fights. And yeah, giving each other grace to make mistakes. And as we're getting older, as I'm learning that people don't always have time, you know, it's okay. If you can't get to me at the time, let's say like I would generally want, or like at the time I would generally get to you, like it's okay. Then maybe get to me a little bit later, but get to me though. I don't want it to be like you won't still follow up, but maybe not in the time frame that I'm hoping, but in a very reasonable time frame. So then I'm giving you grace, then I expect that same grace from you. Intentionality, very no, no, intentionality is important to me, very important to me. So like these dates things, for example, like that's why I use my calendar. If I can't remember stuff, I'm gonna put it in my calendar because I know that I want to reach out to you after, you have that big interview, or, after you've traveled, or, after a date, whatever it is, I want to reach out to you. I want to see how it went. I might not reach out to you that same day, but I want to reach out to you within 1 or 2 days so that I can see how things went. I want you to know that I'm there for you. And then another thing I'm learning though is that you may not really have reciprocity, and like that might have to be okay in certain areas. That part I feel like is the most challenging for me, like not having that reciprocity. So that there is what stops me from taking you from a lower level of friendship to a higher level of friendship. So a lower level of friendship, no reciprocity, no problem. I can still check on you. How you doing? Okay, you don't check on me, no problem. But if I feel it in my heart to check on you, I'll still check on you. But then when I start to get that reciprocity, of course, then the friendship starts to build more and more. And then it gets to, a much higher level of friendship. But friendship means a lot to me. And so since I'm in that season where my thoughts on friendship is changing, I'm also trying to redefine how I see it, how I approach it, how I, go through it. It's a very different time of my life, and it's very interesting to actually see it happen. My mom used to always say that you don't have friends as adults. Even Bookie's mom, same thing. No, you don't need friends. I'm like, mommy, well, you should calm down. Why can you say you don't need friends? People need friends. But but truly, I'm starting to realize, well, maybe you don't need many friends, but you need a certain number of close, really close, good best friends, sisters. And then, the rest people can just be, normal, how you doing, type thing.
I think I appreciate that. And it's funny because I'll take, from both of you, openness being who you are and commitment. I don't know. I think friendship requires a certain level of commitment. I feel like my friends are for life. And I think one of the things I see on the one hand is my friends are so accepting of me because as much quality as I feel like I bring in friendship, like you both mentioned, I'm a recluse. So my male best friend, I always feel like I have to apologize to him every weekend or every other weekend when he reaches out. He's like, I meant to reach out to you, but I'm so sorry. Like, I haven't. And it's not because I'm not thinking about you. It's not because I don't care. I will literally buy a ticket today to come see you. But that whole, or maybe I'm not calling every day. And it's funny because I have two people in front of me that are very, very different. Debby This is the first time I'm probably seeing her face all year until I go see her, like in August, right? But for me, gonna be like, I haven't seen your face in like 1 week. I'm like, ma'am, we just spoke. Like, but she's gonna do video call. I'm like, and I'm just like, it's interesting because on the one hand, it's like I wouldn't say needy. Needy is not the word, but you get my point. Like one person requires a certain level of activity, whereas the other doesn't. But if you hear Debbie, you can hear the amount of commitment too. Like that's what she appreciates. And I think that, you know, understanding that, having that expectation of this is what my friend requires and still choosing to be. And I feel like it's interesting because I feel like I'm then different people to both of you, but really, it's not. It's just understanding what your friends need. It's like having two different kids, right? At least that's the way I think about it. One kid might need more attention than the other, or need more FaceTime than the other. And I think that's good. Okay, with that said, I had one last question. Oh, yeah, I had one last question. This one is, I don't know if it's going to be hard, but like, think about it. What is the most annoying thing about me, or like that constructive criticism that you would tell me if you knew that I won't be annoyed? Alrighty, let's go. I'm
Okay, I
I'm
guess let me
ready.
start on this one.
I'm hardening my heart. Yes.
No, yeah, no,
I
I've
know
told
you'll
you
be happy
before,
for
it's
this
not
one.
now. Are too hard on yourself.
Mm,
That's something that you know, and I'm sure Fumi knows too. You're too hard on yourself. I'm usually like, baby girl, calm down. You're okay. Like, you're doing much better than you think you are. Like, sometimes I just want to shake you and be like, look, you believe in God. It will be fine. Yes, maybe like these 2, 3 months are not fine, but the previous 9 months were great though. So it's going to come back. Like, and sometimes I'm just like, I wish you knew how good, great you are and your life is going to be. I've always told you from time. Whenever you wanted to go to Nigeria, like, and I would say, Bookie, no, no, now's not the time. Don't go to Nigeria yet. And you'll be like, no, I want to go to Nigeria. I'm like, Bookie, not now. Like, you will go to Nigeria, and I promise you're going to be huge in Nigeria, but not now. And so that for me is something like, I just wish you would not be so hard on yourself, even in moments where things are not going great. Still, just don't be too hard
mm,
on yourself. Like, take it easy on yourself. You can't be there for everybody else and then not be there for yourself. You know, one of the things that I always tell the caregivers of my patients, because they be right there doing everything for their patient, doing everything for my patient. And then the caregiver is breaking down and they have blood pressure is this and one thing is that, one thing that. And I'm like, well, if you don't take care of
mm,
yourself, how are you going to take care of other people? Because that's your job,
yeah,
right? You like to
yeah,
take care of other people, Bookie. So you have to take care of
mm,
yourself. You have to have positive thoughts so that when we come to you, then you're able to truly have those thoughts. Like, it's not coming from just your experience or knowledge of God or whatever, but from your actual heart, because this is how you feel about yourself. So then you're able to put that in other people as well. So
yeah.
be easy on yourself.
Thank you.
I think that I would concur with that in terms of you take care of everybody. You don't necessarily give yourself the. And I think I alluded to this earlier in terms of me not necessarily wanting to share certain things because I know that this is going to become a bookie problem, an effect problem. And I need you to reserve that energy for yourself to doing your own thing. I think that if you have something that you're trying to figure out, the minute I call you, like if you had to do something this weekend, like you really had to power through something this weekend, and I call you like, oh, this is what I'm dealing with. You will drop it and be here in a hot second. And I'm just like, I need you to not. I need you to not. So I think that that would be the one thing just to kind of piggyback off what Debbie said is you're very intense. You are very intense. And I don't need you to be less intense. That's not what I'm trying to say. I just wish that some of that intensity you would, yeah, leave us. just just leave us. I think that's the only thing that I will say. I had mentioned earlier that sometimes I don't open up about things because I do know that you are a problem solver type person. And sometimes I'm not in problem solver mode yet. Like, what are we going to do? You're very bring out the sheet of paper. Where are we going? What are we doing next? And that's what I love about you. I just, sometimes maybe because I also carry guilt. I do carry guilt, especially about the last 2 years. I carry guilt that a lot of me just offloading. You have carried that on. and it's impacting you in ways I don't know yet.
Mm.
And I wish that you would sometimes just block and push stuff away. That's
Well,
my
that's unlikely, but I will work on not always being a problem solver. It's funny that you said that because I've been thinking about it, and I think I even mentioned it to Debbie that sometimes I'm like, oh, I want you to do this and I want you to do that, and I'm just like, okay, no, she just wants me to listen, like keep quiet. So that is definitely something I'm working on. I try not to cry really hard during the session, so I'm very proud of myself. But yes, I'm also working on not being too hard on myself. That's gonna be like that's a prayer point. But
that
no,
is
honestly,
the prayer point.
Yes.
honestly, this has been awesome because I think like it's less even about our friendship. I hope people can really get from this just being intentional, loving people. It's funny. I was reading the Bible before we got on, and it was just talking about how do you know that you love God? It's because you love others. And like I always tell God, I'm like, God, if I'm doing nothing right, I love your people. I be trying. I really be trying to love people, and I think that's really what I hope people get out of this. With that said, you get to ask me one question. Who's going first?
Jesus Christ. I don't know what to ask. See,
Funmi is
movie is
pointing to
pointing to me
Debbie.
because neither one of us know what to ask. Anyways, before I ask, let me just make this statement.
Mm-hmm.
Last year, when I was going through the most difficult time of my life, I just want to say this so that I can let everybody know how wonderful of a friend you've been to me, and which is why, like, no matter what, you are always going to be number one in my book. I'm gonna cry.
You're gonna make me cry.
I'm not gonna cry. I'm not gonna cry.
Okay, stop.
Anyways, no, I know. I just want to let the whole world know. Like literally, I had gone through the most difficult time of my life, and when I tell you, like, I did not have support from who I thought I would get support from, it's crazy. Bookie jumped on the plane 2 days after. She could have come that day, but the only reason she didn't come that day was just so that, she would just give me a couple of days. She jumped on the plane, got here, I think it was Monday. She had to travel to Nigeria on Thursday. So she came, she stayed Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Her sister, was in town, mommy was in town, everybody was in town. She had so much she was doing, but she jumped on the plane just to come be with me for 3 days. She checked on me every day for 30. I counted. I remember telling somebody this, and the person was like, why why were you counting? I didn't purposely count, but I just happened to keep count, especially because I didn't get that same from literally anybody else. And so I just want to put it out there, like, I don't need anyone to call me or text me every day, but in moments of true, like, that's the only time I've ever been through anything dark. And so, like, she knew, like, I would need that for those 30 days. She didn't necessarily call me, it was just a text thinking about you, praying for you, whatever it was. And it meant the entire world to me. So I just want to let you know that. Thank you.
I love you
Thank you
too.
for it. Thank you.
That's not the question, but I love you too.
Okay, I don't have a question, honestly. Okay, what do you want for
Like,
yourself in 5 years? Like, what is the one thing that you want for yourself in the next 5 years?
absolute peace of mind. And I know that sounds crazy because it seems very vague, but as you all have alluded to, I'm an overthinker, I'm a problem solver, I'm taking on, that's just who I am, right? So I think absolute peace of mind, and that comes with knowing everybody else is good, like knowing my family's good, knowing things are progressing, not because there won't be difficult moments, but I think just a better sense of the peace that you cannot buy, a better sense of peace that only Jesus can give, right? And I think about how sometimes I'm dreaming and it feels so active, like it's like I'm sleeping and it's so active, and I'm doing a movie and all of that kind of, and I'm just like, God, can I just sleep, like where I'm like I slept and I don't remember anything and it's not active. And it may not necessarily be a bad thing, I don't think, and at least I don't think it's affecting the quality of my sleep, but I do think that that's coming from a place of not yet absolute peace of mind, as opposed to just God giving me some creative thing to go and do. So I'm trusting God for absolute peace of mind, and that just means peace on every side. So yeah.
I like that.
That's my answer. Funmi, you've had a lot of time to think about your question.
I have. This is hard, and I should know this because I know this is what you ask on your podcast. What question do I have for you? Let's see. I don't know what questions I have for you. Let's see. Just make sure you're okay.
That is not a question.
It is. Okay, let me phrase it as a question. Will you make sure that you are intentional about letting us know, or let me personalize it, letting me know what you need from me, letting me know how you need me to show up for you? Will you make sure that you make difficult choices if you have to? Like when it comes to friendships.
So here's the thing. The way I think about it, and I think maybe Debbie will more know me in that sense, is I honestly don't think I am going above and beyond. Like, I really don't. I think that I am doing to the capacity of what I can do because I feel like God has given me that amount of capacity. Now, if I get tired or I'm sick or I don't feel like talking to anybody, I think both of you know that I'll be like, I'm putting my phone off or I'm not talking to anybody or I'm going to sit down at home all weekend. Like I've already said, I'm not traveling this month, well, June, like I feel like I'm very clear on I need my space. And even the fact that, because I live alone, I get to take all of that space and all of that time that I need for myself. And I do the things that I enjoy by myself. Like, I'll read, I'll watch TV, whatever. So I think it may look like that. And I think that's the one thing people may not quite
Understand?
like not understand, but like what's that thing that they misunderstand about me? It's like, oh,
Mhm.
you see that this person is like doing a lot, it seems like a lot, like, oh, do you need to be there for everything or do you need to be there for everyone? I don't think that's the case, and that maybe that's just me being honest, or maybe that's me being naive, I don't know, but I don't think that's the case. I think that if I didn't have the capacity for it, I won't do it. That's just the truth of the matter. And I take my own time. I take my time to, refresh, to heal, to restore, and I guess to Debbie's point, then I end up putting it on myself. Like, in other words, I'm just hard on my own self for my own things, but not for other people, is what I would say. But yes, I will be more intentional about saying what I want and all of that good stuff, if that's the question. But yeah, thank you very much. Thank you both very, very much for joining me. I appreciate this honest and very open conversation about friendship, and I hope people enjoy it. Thank you for joining me in today's episode. Just like you would share with friends about a great book you read, don't forget to share this if you enjoyed it. Connect with us on IG and Twitter at TWWPcast and get details on the website at worldwithoutpeople.org. And hey, remember to make loving others the story of your life. Until next time, this is the world without people.